Hey everyone, welcome to The Pen Habit. My name's Matt Armstrong, and in today's video review, we're going to be looking at another little pen. I seem to have been doing a lot of them this season. I should let you know right up front that this pen was provided by Kaweco for review purposes, and I will be doing a giveaway of this pen to viewers of The Pen Habit, so it is not a pen I get to keep, just for transparency's sake. So anyway, speaking of little pens, here's the box it comes in. This is a little pen. This is the Kaweco Liliput. And you can see this, little cardboard box here. Nothing too fancy. You take the box apart, or open it up rather, and inside you get this little pen. And it's a little pen. It's probably one of the littlest little pens I've ever used. Now, I'm going to go into this review with the disclaimer that, as a general rule, I don't like little pens. So understand that I'm going to do my best to review this not from the standpoint of do I like it so much or not, because the reality is I don't like this pen. And it's not because it's a bad pen, it's just because I don't like little pens. So, that being said, it's a good little pen. So let's dive in here. So it looks like, it's very cylindrical, kind of sleek design. Looks like a giant black Tylenol, frankly. Kind of very rounded edges. Oh, and it looks like Luke the dog just made a quick entry to see what I was up to. It says, got the Kaweco logo right here on the top, and then says Kaweco Liliput, Germany, right there on the pen. You can feel a little bit of a bump where the cap meets the barrel, and then some threads on the back, and we'll get back to that in just a second. It's a metal pen, very lightweight. So if you unscrew the pen, you've got the section here with a small nib. This is a broad nib, some threads, and then the barrel of the pen. Now, this is about the size of, I don't know if this is a thing outside of the United States very much or not, but if you are familiar with miniature golf or golf at all, those little wooden pencils you get when you go to a miniature golf course, or maybe when you go to IKEA. This is about that same size. It's a tiny little pen, and one that, in my mind, is impossible to use when it's not posted. And I don't think this pen is really intended to be used posted. That's why there are some threads back here. So the cap threads onto the back of the pen, just like this, and all of a sudden it becomes a usable length. It's still a pretty narrow pen. It's about, if you hold it down here, it's about the same size as a cheap plastic mechanical pencil or a wooden pencil. It might be just a little bit wider up here if you grip it above the threads, which is where I hold it when I write with it. It's got a steel nib. It's a small steel nib, so this is not, as far as I know, the same size nib that comes on the Sport or the All Sport or any, the other interchangeable nibs. This nib is smaller than those, or it appears to be, so I don't think it's interchangeable. Plastic feed. It is a cartridge pen, and notice I did not say cartridge converter. You have to use the short cartridges, so this is a short cartridge. You can't use the long ones. Kaweco makes some miniature converters, and so does Monteverde, I believe, make a miniature converter. I have not tried one. I don't know how well they work. There's I think a bulb style converter, which is basically just a little rubber sack with a ring on it, and possibly a plunger style or a twist style converter. I don't know. If I had a pen like this, I'd be using cartridges. I would not be using converters. Being a metal pen, it really should not be used for an eyedropper, because the ink could corrode the inside of the pen and cause all kinds of clogging problems, that sort of thing. Now, the Liliput has gotten a lot of attention recently because Kaweco released a version of the Liliput called the Fire Blue. The Liliput comes in a variety of different colors. I have seen, the ones that interested me the most is I think it's a coppery color, and then there's the Fire Blue. And the Fire Blue looks like like the bluing on a rifle, like, they stuck it in the fire. It's got a lot of motion. It's a really neat looking finish. And lately, a lot of people have been talking about it online. I've not seen one or used one. And while it's certainly very cool looking, I would need that finish to be available on a much larger pen before I would get one myself. So, little pen. And let's go through the stats for you here so you can see exactly what I mean. So lengthwise, we are looking at 87.5 millimeters uncapped, and when capped, 96.4. So even when capped, we still haven't broken the 100 millimeter barrier here. When it's posted, you're looking at 125.7 millimeters. So like this, 125. It's still, especially if you have to hold it up here like I do, or I don't have to, but I generally do. And the way I'll hold it is generally my middle finger will be on the section, but the two fingers that do the grip are a little bit higher up, because otherwise I have a hard time getting the nib to the paper. And I think it's with the way I hold my hand. I kind of curl my hand under like this. I know some people will write like this. I can't do that. Or I'm sure I could, but I've not trained myself to do it. Diameter-wise, you are looking at only 7.8 millimeters for the section, so very narrow. The barrel is 9.3 and the cap is 9.9. So this is going to be a very narrow pen, best for someone with smaller hands, I suspect. And then weight, you're looking at a very, very light 6 grams uncapped and 10 grams capped or posted, and that's with an ink cartridge in place. So it's going to be very light, despite the fact that it's metal. So, I've had this pen for a little while, and I actually used it to write my first draft of the written review of the pen, which you'll find over on penhabit.com. So I feel like I've got a pretty good sense of the pen. Like every other Kaweco steel nibbed pen that I've tried this season, and this is the 5th one that Kaweco has sent me for review this season. This is like all of those, the steel nib is dry and narrower than you would expect from its designation. These nibs tend to run a little bit more toward the Japanese style sizing, probably because they are so dry. If they were a little bit wetter, I think these pens would probably write closer to the Western style nib designations. It is my understanding that these pens the nibs for these pens are manufactured by Bock, which is one of the two big nib manufacturers, Jowo being the other one. And thus far, with all of my Kaweco pens, all of them have been very smooth. All of them have been a little too dry. And some of them have a fairly forgiving sweet spot, others don't. This pen seems to be right in the middle. So there's a lot. If you're looking for a very small pen or you have very small hands, there's a lot to recommend this pen. A couple of things I'm not super thrilled about is, first of all, the form factor. This looks like a giant pill, like one of those capsules where they put powder on the inside. I don't love the design. It's a little too, I don't know, too bland for me. The other thing I don't care for with this pen is the complete lack of a clip. If you're going to make a pocket pen, which is what I would consider this a pocket pen, it really needs to have a clip. I wouldn't ever put this in my pocket because I wouldn't carry it myself, but it's a little too small to just put in the pocket without being able to clip it to something. And I don't know, for those of you who carry purses, if your purse is anything like the purse my mom had growing up, putting this little itty bitty thing in there, a black pen with no clip, this small in your purse, means that it will disappear and never be found again. So I wish this had some sort of clip or a ring or something that you could use to attach it, because as it is, it just feels like a giant black pill. That being said, let's do a little bit of a writing sample so you can see how it writes. All right, so this is the Kaweco Liliput. And it's got a steel broad nib. The ink is unknown. It's some random blue cartridge I had sitting around in my pen case. So, because I with the giveaway of this pen, I'm going to be giving away a whole bunch of Kaweco ink cartridges, and I didn't want to use one of the prize cartridges for this, so this is some random unknown blue. Unknown blue. And we're on a Rhodia dot pad. Okay, so let me do our little quote. All right. So, as I mentioned, it's a smooth nib. It writes very smooth, but I'll show you. The sweet spot does tend to be just a little narrow on this one. I'm just rotating it slightly from side to side, and it, because it is so dry, I find I get a lot of skips and hard starts. And I'm actually going to pull this in here really quickly because this is my notes. This is the same ink cartridge. I wrote this just before I started, and you can see when you compare them side by side, there's a little bit more ink coming out now, but it was very, very pale, getting some skips and hard starts in a couple of spots. The ink flow didn't keep up with me as I was writing, because the full review is about 3 pages long that I wrote by hand, and it just didn't keep up with me when I was writing it. I had to actually unscrew the cap and squeeze the cartridge a couple of times. Now, I suspect that if someone opened up the tines on this nib slightly and increased the ink flow, it would write much better. A lot of the skips and hard starts and stuff I feel are coming from how dry the pen is, not because the nib is poorly ground. And looking at it under magnification, I didn't see significant baby's bottom or any problems like that. So I think it's just a dryness factor. Now, because I'm giving this pen away, I didn't adjust it because I want people to be able to adjust the pens to their own liking. But this was drier than I would have stood for if it were my pen. It's just, it feels a little rough on the paper because of that. And you'll notice I stopped talking for a while, and it got darker a bit. So this is not a sit down and write for 30 minutes kind of pen. This is a quick, I'm going to jot a note or two down and put the pen away kind of pen. Unfortunately, because of that, the way that you have to cap and uncap the pen is a little time consuming. So I don't know. It's a neat little design, but I just don't think it's very practical, at least not for the way I would use the pen. Back to the writing. So there's a little bit of give here to the nib, but not too much. Nothing too special. It's smooth. There is a touch of feedback, but nothing unpleasant by any stretch of the imagination. Let me just do a little dryness test there. So quite dry. Normally I get streaks out to about here at least, sometimes even as far as here. So it writes quite dry. But it's not a bad pen by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not a pen for me. I can, again, rotating. On terms of reverse writing, it kind of works. Not great, very fine, very dry, little scratchy, but that's to be expected. So all in all, this is just not the right pen for me. I know there are some folks out there who really like the Liliput. I suspect they use their pens a little bit differently than I do, or they really like these smaller pens. This one, it's just not my style. Um, it feels well made. There's very little slack between the threads. The nib is smooth despite being too dry. But I don't know, this pen just doesn't speak to me. So with that in mind, I'll be happy to be doing the giveaway for this. Just keep your eye over at penhabit.com or on my Twitter or Facebook accounts or Google+. I'll be announcing the giveaway. I'll be giving this away with 20 some odd Kaweco ink cartridges, basically in every color that they make. So you want to be watching out for that. And if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below, or you can email me at penhabit@gmail.com. Thank you as always for watching. Thank you again to Kaweco for providing this pen for review and for the giveaway. And we will see you here next time on the Pen Habit. Thanks for watching. Bye. Hi everyone. Welcome to the Pen Habit. I am Matt Armstrong and welcome. Oh my gosh.